We have all been there. You try to upload something to your Google Drive, but it fails because you used up all your free 15 gigabytes of storage. Now your only option is to buy more gigabytes from Google to expand your storage. So the question becomes, should you pay Google for more storage? Even though at times they can become unreliable, causing you to lose your files for good? And should you really be trusting a corporation like Google, who is famously known for having a major tendency of collecting your data? In addition to this, not even Google's AI would trust them to handle its private data. Again, should you buy more storage from Google? The answer to that is absolutely not. So what do you do? Well, don't worry, because I have the solution to your problems. Because in this video, we will make our own home NAS server with an amazing tool called Samba. You probably think you need expensive hardware or need to learn the matrix. However, this is not the case, and all you need is your old decaying laptop or PC you had forgotten all these years ago, and a USB stick. And don't worry if you're not tech savvy, because this video was made for anyone. We need to understand what a home NAS server is before we begin. A home NAS server is like your personal, private Google Drive or iCloud. Think of it as a hard drive that can be accessed anywhere in your home. Of course, you will be only doing a LAN setup, which means only you and the people connected to your network can only access that hard drive. Before we begin, if you could please subscribe and leave a like, it would really help out the channel. Thanks. I'll be using Kubuntu, but other Debian-based distros will also work like Ubuntu. If you don't know how to install Linux distro, don't worry, because I will give you a very easy and quick guide on how to do that. For this, I recommend using one of the official Ubuntu flavors, because how easy and user-friendly they are. Just don't install the base Ubuntu 26.04 LTS, because it requires 6 gigabytes of RAM. And let's be honest, we are both too broke to afford such a luxury. Anyways, go to the distros project page and find the download button. Download the ISO image, then get that USB that you don't need, and be sure you backed up all the data from that USB because it's going to be erased and formatted. Then download Rufus. Rufus is a tool that writes ISO images on USBs. Run Rufus, select the USB you want to write the image on, click on select and select that ISO image. And when you're ready, click on start. Once it finishes, restart your PC and press the function key that leads to your boot menu. Boot into the USB and complete the setup process. Now, once you finished installing the OS and you have made it to the desktop, the very first thing you need to do is to ensure the PC does not turn off while being idle. To do this, we need to open up settings and find power management. After we change our power management, find and open the terminal. I know the terminal might look scary, but I will be there with you going through this step by step. We will only run a few commands and edit one configuration file, nothing more. The first command we will run is a sudo apt update to update our package index and would allow us to get the latest version of Samba. The first thing we need to do is to install a package called Samba. Samba is the only main component we need to create a NAS server. Without it, we won't be able to allow other devices to see our NAS server. So on the terminal, type sudo apt install Samba, and when prompted, type Y and press enter. Now all we have to do is just relax, chill, and wait for the install to finish, and afterwards, then we will continue.
5 minutes later.
After the install, now we have to make our folder. This folder will be like our hard drive, where all of our devices can access it. Type this line into the terminal, hit enter, and now we have our folder. This folder that we created could be accessed in the home directory, if you're ever wondering. However, our folder is missing a very important permission, but before that we need to have ownership over the folder. On the terminal, type this line into it. Replace user with your username. If for some reason you've forgotten what you named yourself, don't worry. If you type who am I into the terminal, it will reveal your username. You're welcome. Anyways, now we can get that permission. On the terminal, type this line. Excellent, now we have full control and ownership over our folder. The next step is to secure our folder with a password. And no, this is not optional. On the terminal, type smb passwd on the terminal. Then, make your password. After you've finished making your password, we just have to do one last thing, and that's editing a configuration file. How fun! We have to edit Samba's configuration file because it tells Samba what to do. On the terminal, type nano and this directory. Nano is a tool. It's sort of like a text editor, but made for a terminal. Hit enter and you should be inside Nano with the same or similar view of what I have here. Before we edit the configuration file, you must change the work group name only if you are using a different name. If not, leave it as is. Alright, scroll all the way to the very bottom of the file. Type share in 2 square brackets, or whatever you want to name it, inside of the square brackets. Then press enter, do some spaces, and type comment equals whatever you want it. Now again, press enter. Now this is the most important step. Type path equals your folder path. This tells Samba where the folder is located. After that, type browsable equals yes. This tells Samba to make the folder visible to users when they browse the network. Next, type read-only equals no. By doing this, you and others will be allowed to modify, create, and delete files within the shared folder instead of just viewing. If you want to be the only person to access the folder, type guest OK equals no, then followed by typing valid users equals to your username. Those two lines tell Samba to restrict access to the folder by requiring a password and to accept one user. Lastly, type these two lines in. Create mask equals to 0664 and directory mask equals to 0775. Those two lines set the file permissions for the folder. Create mask equals to 0664 gives the owner and group permission to create, modify, and delete files. And directory mask 0775 restricts the permissions of newly created folders so the owner and group can read, write, and access them, while others can only read and access them. You could also add mask equals 0775 to execute files. However, only put mask equals 0775 if you are actually executing programs and not just storing them. Otherwise, you should remove it as they could cause security risks. Once you finish typing, press Ctrl O to save the file, and afterwards, press Ctrl X to exit the file. Back on the terminal, we need to start Samba. Type this line in. Afterwards, we need to enable it. Type this line. Congratulations, we have now made a NAS server in our home network. To access our NAS server, all we have to do is to get our private IP address from our NAS server. On the terminal, type IPA. Find where it says INT. The string of numbers is your private IP address. Write it down and don't forget about it because we need it later. Once we have the private IP address, in a file explorer window, on the address bar, you just have to type the private IP address and you should see a folder called share. Open the folder, a prompt should appear requesting our password. Type in your password and you should see your folder. For fun, let me create a text file to show you how it syncs. On our NAS server, if we go back to the terminal and go into the directory, we should see a text file. And yeah, here it is. We can also go in it. You can also do a map drive on the folder. That's all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and have an amazing day.